Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video for today. So in today's video, let's talk about everything you need to know before Nvidia reports their next quarterly figures Wednesday after the market closes. Now at the time of making this video, which is just before the market closes on Friday, and remember on Monday the markets are closed in the United States. Well, on Friday, of course, the market did open deep red because of that announcement that Europe will get hit with 50% tariffs. As you can see, Apple is down close to 3% because they're also going to get hit or expected to get hit by a certain amount of tariffs as well if they do not start to build in the United States. Now, throughout the week, we've had various, reports and movements from the market, whether it was, a week ago, we had that Moody's downgrade. Then we've got the bill that passed the House that's going to increase spending. The budget cannot be balanced, etc., etc. Yields are rising. We've talked about all of that in previous videos. If you missed that, that would be in the top right corner. But in this one, let's focus purely on Nvidia, what they expect to report, what the market expects them to report for a quarter, and the one after that. And then a couple of announcements with regards to the company and the industry. And then I'd also do want to talk a little bit about AMD insider buying, but that will be towards the end of the video. So if you're interested in all of that, hit the thumbs up button, subscribe if you have not, we really appreciate that. If you want to support me even further, do check out the link down in the description and in the pinned comment with the top 10 best stocks to buy now, or go to fool.com/couchinvestor. Thank you very much. All right, so first up, going into this earnings report, JP Morgan reported the following. Nvidia saw the longest selling streak since 2022 and the largest selling flow since 2015. It does seem like a lot of investors are unloading Nvidia stock before the upcoming earnings report. And to be honest, I'm not really seeing it in the stock price. Yes, year to date it is down. It is down 4.8%, but it did rebound quite nicely from the lows a month or so ago. As you can see, month over month, it's up closer to 30%. Right now it has a market cap of $3.24 trillion. Trailing 12 months PE of 44.8 times with a forward one closer to 32 times. This is a company that still, despite its size, it's still expected to grow revenues forward 2 years by 37.7% and EPS also 37.4%. And so if we visualize Nvidia's growth over the last couple of years, of course, this is what we get. This is insane. The big move is, of course, coming from the data center side of the business. Since 2020, fiscal year 2020, that has grown at a compound annual growth rate of 107.5%. Compound annual growth rate. That means it has grown by 3,761%. And if we want to look at what happens quarter after quarter for the last 2 years, so basically this is when, ChatGPT already came out, right? The Nvidia at the end of 2022, the stock went down 60% from its peak back in 2021 and then bottomed out. The business was also struggling a little bit. Margins were down, everything was down. But as you can see, here it started to bottom out and then, the rest, of course, is history. When it comes to operating income, of course, I'd say 90+% of it, close to 99% of it does come from the compute and networking side of things, and then the rest comes from graphics. Now, if we look at what the analysts are expecting this company to do when it comes to free cash flow for the upcoming fiscal years, we can see that free cash flow for fiscal 2026, that's expected to grow close to 40%. Then in fiscal 2027, that's expected to grow by another 33.1%. And then in fiscal 28, that's expected to grow still by 15.4% to reach $145.7 billion in just free cash flow. If you've missed last quarter's results, these were basically it on a GAAP and non-GAAP basis. As you can see, gross margin, that's the part that was down, but they did say that towards the back half of the year, that should go up back again. Now, with the China hit, of course, it remains to be seen what they'll tell us in the upcoming earnings call, but this has also to do with the product mix. So we went from 74.6% to 73%. Yes, it's a small hit, but it's still by far industry-leading margins, which we can see right here. I compared it to AMD, for example. This is gross profit margin. Now, as you can see, AMD has actually been improving quarter after quarter for the last couple of years, right? Q1 2018, that was closer to 35%. Now we're closer to 54%. As for Nvidia, as you can see, by far the leaders. And as you can see, this is when the stock started to come down quite aggressively back in 2022. Margins were coming down, and then of course a huge increase in margins. Now if you look at free cash flow margin here as well, Nvidia by far leading here, over 46% free cash flow margin. AMD has been improving a little bit over the last couple of quarters, and with the increase in share buybacks, right, they increased the share buyback program by $6 billion, adding to the $4 billion that they already have. That also signals, well, confidence that free cash flow for the business is going to grow each and every quarter. I do fully expect free cash flow margin to go back up into double digit territory. Now going back to Nvidia and what's expected from them for the upcoming quarter. Well, the guidance that the company gave us was $43 billion plus minus 2%. Analyst consensus, $42.7 to $43.3 billion. Adjusted EPS, analysts expect between 87 to 88 cents, and gross margin on a non-GAAP basis of 71 cents. From the company's guidance, analysts expecting between 70.6 and 71%. Now, don't forget, the company did tell us that for the first quarter of fiscal 2026, that ends on April 27, 2025, the first quarter results are expected to include up to approximately $5.5 billion of charges associated with H20 products for inventory, purchase commitments, and related reserves. Jensen Huang also said that, well, if this China situation does not really get resolved, this could cost the business $50 billion. Now, not in one quarter, of course not, but over the long run, yes, this could amount to a huge loss for Nvidia, and not just Nvidia. We've seen that with AMD, we've seen that with Intel as well. China is a huge market for those players, and you really, this is another quote by Jensen Huang. He said he believes that over half of the AI researchers are in China. So imagine if you're not allowed to access that market, well, that market will adapt, right? We've seen that with Huawei, for example. It might not be better than Nvidia today, but if we continue like this, I'm pretty sure that they're going to catch up, well, sooner rather than later. And so, yeah, hopefully that AI diffusion rule is completely gone. Hopefully the exports rules are also going to be tweaked, and, well, companies like Nvidia, like AMD, like Intel can continue to export Western AI technology into China. Now, of course, that's going to be, I would say, a big topic in this earnings call, right? They're going to talk about that. They're going to talk about a potential hit in the upcoming quarters, what that's going to do with margins. I mean, that's for sure going to be a topic, and it remains to be seen what they're about to tell us. It's not just that, we've had other announcements as well, right? More recently, we've talked about NVLink Fusion, something that they announced during Computex. This basically allows integration of non-NVIDIA CPUs, GPUs with NVIDIA's ecosystem, enabling semi-custom AI infrastructure and expanding NVIDIA's reach, right? NVIDIA is basically saying here, you know what? Okay, you might have been a competitor or sort of competitor, but right now, you know what? Why not? Why not integrate yourself inside the NVIDIA ecosystem? It makes sense for them, right? It just grows their own ecosystem, it grows their own developer community as well, and makes, well, the walled garden even more powerful. They also touched on DGX Cloud Lepton, the new cloud platform to connect developers with NVIDIA's global GPU resources. I don't know if you remember, but a couple of months ago, they did say that their robotics business, which also includes the automotive part of it, is worth $5 billion already. Let's see if that has increased or if they see any positive movement in those segments. Now, more recently, we've had a huge announcement coming out of the UAE. Remember, we've had the Stargate project, the $500 billion project for the United States. Now we have one here for the UAE, and that AI data center will begin operation in 2026. Now, who's involved? OpenAI, Nvidia, Oracle, Cisco, and of course, SoftBank Group, G42, that's the UAE-based AI firm, and the US and the UAE governments for, well, strategic and regulatory support. This is going to be located in Abu Dhabi, covering 10 square miles. The capacity in the initial phase will be 1 gigawatt of AI computing, with the first 200 megawatt cluster expected to be online in 2026. The full campus will be 5 gigawatts, making it the largest AI data center outside the United States. They will use approximately 100,000 Nvidia chips in the first phase, specifically the advanced Grace Blackwell GB300 systems. The campus will be powered by a mix of nuclear, solar, and natural gas energy sources. The project is part of a broader $500 billion initiative to build AI infrastructure globally, with $100 billion already committed. Now, for every dollar invested in the UAE, a matching investment will be made in the United States AI infrastructure. So here again, another huge win for Nvidia, and I'd say also another huge win for OpenAI, because I do believe that ChatGPT Plus will be available to the whole UAE population. Moving on to a very, very fresh out of the oven report, Oracle will buy $40 billion of Nvidia chips for OpenAI's US data center. So apparently the data center will be in Texas, and that's part of the US Stargate project led by top AI firms in the country to boost America's heft in the AI industry amid heating global competition. The cloud service provider Oracle will purchase 400,000 of Nvidia's most powerful GB200 chips and lease the computing power to OpenAI. The data center is expected to be fully operational by mid next year, and Oracle has agreed to lease the site for 15 years. JP Morgan has provided a bulk of the debt financing across 2 loans totaling $9.6 billion, while the site's owner, Crosso and US investment firm Blue Owl Capital have invested around $5 billion in cash. So, I mean, here again, huge deal for Nvidia and of course for OpenAI as well. So I mean, to me, to be honest, whatever happens on Wednesday will happen. There will be a lot of noise, especially because of that one-time hit, or might not be a one-time hit because of the China rules and exports control. But yeah, everything that I'm seeing here is pointing towards, well, Nvidia still being the leader. There's still going to be hundreds of billion dollars in spending. A lot of those dollars are going to flow into Nvidia's pockets. Last thing here, and that's AMD related, we've had the EVP and Chief Commercial Officer buy around $1 million worth of shares. The amount is 8,800 shares, which amounts to around $1 million worth of AMD shares. Now, that number, to be honest, is pretty big. No matter who you are, that number is pretty big. And again, remember, insiders, they buy for usually one particular reason, and that's because, well, they think that the stock is undervalued. They think it's going to be worth more in the future. Basically the same reason we buy a stock, right? We think we're paying a good price. We think the company will be worth more in the future, and that's why we're buying a stock. They sell, insiders sell for various reasons. So to me, another positive sign here. We've seen them increase the share buyback program. We're now seeing insider buying. Yes, I am still waiting for them to give me a bit more clarity when it comes to the AI revenue, especially for this year. Hopefully during that AMD AI event that will happen in a couple of weeks' time, we are going to get a lot more information. And so all in all, that's about it for me. Of course, you know, when it comes to buying before an earnings report or not, it's always the same answer, right? If you really want to have a position, why not? And if you don't, if you just want to trade, then it's up to you. I can't answer that question, but I do think that investors had huge opportunities, especially when Nvidia was closer to $100. Now it's up $40. I'm not saying cannot go higher. It probably will go higher because it still is a tremendous business that is still somehow attracting hundreds of billions of dollars to that business, and is still, even at the size that it is today, over $3 trillion in market cap, it's still growing faster than a lot of smaller companies. So that will be it for me in this video. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Some predictions, leave it down there, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye.